All right, welcome everyone. I'm happy you're here. And yeah, I wanted to share a little bit of sunshine from only via OneRepublic, as it seems that our Minnesota weather doesn't really want to cooperate with us and bring spring, but it's coming. Again, we're just really happy you're here. During 2020, a year that many of us will remember is the onset of the pandemic, an average of 8,600 children and young adults were in foster care. And this is according to the Minnesota Department of Human Services. In addition, foster advocates found that more than 80% of fosters were negatively impacted by COVID-19. So one of the ways Minnesota is uplifting foster youth is through the new Fostering Higher Education Act and through amazing organizations like Foster Advocates. And to help facilitate this conversation regarding both is Hoang Murphy. Huang Murphy is the founder and executive director of Foster Advocates, and Foster Advocates is changing the narratives for many foster youth by uplifting their voices. They're working hard each day to uplift and honor the power and purpose of foster youth. And we're just thrilled that Huang is joining us today. And like any journey together, I can't promise there won't be bumps in the road, especially with technology, but I hope that they'll be minimal and the journey will provide some really great resources and a great connection, building community and conversation. So with that, here's our roadmap. It's always good to start from a good place, and that's getting to know all of you. I see many new names, some that are familiar, some folks are maybe new to joining us. And so as we get to know you, we're going to introduce Mentor Minnesota, provide some foundational knowledge, and then hear from our special guest, Huang Murphy, and learn more about Foster Advocates, along with discussing the Fostering Higher Education Act, and then provide a space for some question and answer, and some resources as well. So in the chat, if you'd be so kind, we'd love to get to know you. So to share your name, pronouns, your organization, agency, or program that you're joining us. And it's lunchtime. So maybe some of you are enjoying some lunch right now, but we'd love to know, what is your favorite pizza topping? And if you really just don't like pizza at all, like maybe some folks, my other question then would be, what is your favorite salad dressing, perhaps? And while we learn a little bit more about you and continue to share in the chat, I'd love to introduce myself along with Mentor Minnesota, but I'm going to first hand the mic over to my teammates, Sarah and Allie.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Schaefer. I'm the executive director at Mentor Minnesota. I'm so pleased for you all to be here. And Huang, we're very excited to talk with you. And this is, your question was very timely, Emily. I actually had pizza last night, and my secret to good pizza is just a little bit of lemon zest on the top.
Sounds delicious. I'm Allie Ervig, the Marketing and Development Manager at Mentor Minnesota. I use she, her pronouns, and mine's a little divisive. It's olives. So, yeah, Emily, back to you.
Both great choices. I've never had lemon zest on my pizza, but I do love lemon and citrus in anything, so I'm going to have to try that. I'm Emily Garai, she, her. I'm the program director here at Mentor Minnesota. And advocating for young people is something that I've always been super passionate about. My background's in education, but excited to continue advocating and uplifting young people through this work in my role here. My favorite pizza topping is actually pineapple. I'm kind of the sweet and salty mix, I think is delicious. So go ahead and continue to share in the chat. And I do see some really interesting, another pineapple fan, awesome. Some commonalities in there, which is great. So as you'll notice, as we kind of learn a little bit more about each other, like unique toppings, many of us have the same, things that we like, or maybe things that are different. So it's good to be mindful that we all have a story to tell, and some of these stories and experiences may be similar to our own, some may not. So instead of making assumptions, we just ask that we all walk softly here today, and that's speaking respectfully to all that are in this space. And we do want everyone to feel welcome and encouraged to really lean into the conversation. You know, we really want to uplift all of you and your questions along with us, and providing you with some space to do that. Wrong direction. See, a little road bump, but minimal, right? So our pillars are really what helps ground us in this work. And so our vision, really our dream as an organization, is that all youth have agency and power at home, at school, out in their communities, and out in the workplace. And so that means that we're here for you. We really want to support you, the adults, in this work. We believe in holistic youth development, and that we elevate quality, connect people to each other, like here in this space today, expanding the movement and influencing systems and the power of positive relationships with mentorship. And we really, believe wholeheartedly in that. So how do we do this? So by providing quality training opportunities and leveraging evidence-based practices to promote best practices in mentoring, and that's through sharing resources and toolkits. Much of some of these I'll be sharing with all of you today. And we also provide opportunities to learn and lead together, and that's through workshops, cohort learning opportunities, and we also provide technical assistance through the National Mentoring Resource Center. So estimates of the number of youth in foster care in the United States are around 400,000 on any given day. And this is over the past 5 years. And this data is coming from the National Mentoring Resource Center. As I mentioned, we work closely with them, and we'll share the link in the chat. They have a tremendous amount of great resources. And the data is still coming in due to the ripples of the data gathering from the pandemic. However, the highlight here is really just how many young people are really impacted by foster care. And we just wanted to kind of ground and start the conversation there. And while we aren't going to stay in this space of statistics, it's important to recognize data regarding situations and circumstances that are impacting young people. Really, in doing that, the more we recognize and uplift the realities and some of those datas and all the numbers facing young people, the better we can find ways to uplift and support them. And so younger children, so children from rural communities and children of color and American Indian descent, are disproportionately represented in the foster care system. So about 30% were 3 years old or younger, and 62% of children living in greater Minnesota. So that's outside of the 7-county metro area, but more in more rural areas. So children of color are overrepresented compared to the number in the general population. Some of these stats are staggering. American Indian children were around 16 to 17. Actually, it's a little bit higher than 16 times more likely than their white counterparts to experience out-of-home care. Those young people that are 2 or more races were 7 times more likely. African American and Black children are between 2 and 3 times more likely. And also Asian and Pacific Islander children were less likely to spend time out of home care compared to their white counterparts. But on an average day, again, 8,600 children here in Minnesota, and so children and young adults experience the foster care system. And this is from the 2020 data, but family foster homes are urgently needed for some children and youth that are in this group of residential settings, because about 82% are in family foster care. So there's a particular need for homes willing to care for teenagers who make up more than a quarter of youth in foster care. So this includes the need for homes and parenting teens to remain with their children in a safe environment. And I mention this because it's particularly important to recognize that as we think about not only meeting the basic needs of teens and young adults, we also want to provide them spaces for them to dream, right? To not just survive, but to thrive. So in the chat, I'm curious if thinking back, and for some of us, that might be a while ago, but I'd love for you to share a dream that you had as a teen. Maybe what did you want to be when you thought about seeing yourself as an adult or out in the world? I know for myself, I actually wanted to be a social worker, and I kind of did a detour into kind of getting there, but ended up in human services eventually. So I love this: musician, teacher, and continue to kind of think back to when you were a teen and figuring it out. And maybe some of us are still figuring it out, but I just kind of want to get you to think about as teens, that we want to, again, provide them spaces for not just to survive, but to thrive. And so one way that we can help encourage and uplift young people to dream is through the Fostering Independence Higher Education Grant. So one way to remove a barrier and allow young people, allow foster youth to really attain opportunities in higher education. And so this program recently passed in the state legislature. So 3.8 million to really help those in foster care pay for extra costs associated with education. And that covers college tuition, books, room and board. And the award also applies, or is going to be applying now for this next 22-23 academic year. We'll also share in the chat. These were just some high level, it's kind of a brief overview to help ground us in this conversation today, but we'll share in the chat where you can actually look at the resource and explore it on your own as well. But those eligible in this program must be between the ages of 13 and 26. They must be Minnesota residents currently or previously in foster care within the state, and recipients must be accepted into an attending eligible institution in Minnesota as well. So again, there's many different pieces to this, but these were some of the kind of overview of what the Higher Education Act included. And so we wanted to just share this brief overview as we're talking. And foster advocates actually help to push this through. And so that's why we're so excited to really uplift their work today. For those that are maybe new to learning about foster advocates, their mission is envisioning Minnesota where everyone involved in the state's foster care system has the same access to opportunities and outcomes as their peers. So foster voices are respected and community expertise is sought in every aspect of the child welfare system. So I thought that was pretty powerful mission statement, again, setting the bar high for all of us that want to help support, and also love that they're incorporating youth voice in everything they're doing. And so they do this through relationships, and that's collectively organizing with the fosters, research, so centering and elevating the lived experience of fosters, and then reform, so advocating for legislative policy and practice reform at all levels. So, and here to represent foster advocates is Hoang Murphy, who has an incredible bio. So I have to read it just because, if you have a bio like this, who wouldn't want that to be shared? And I'm guessing that I've met with Hoang's coworker, Hannah, who's incredible and said that you're incredibly humble. So I'm not trying to embarrass you here, but I definitely want to share a little bit about your background. So Hoang was a former high school English teacher. He has seen the importance of amplifying student and family voices. Hoang also has had the honor of serving as a public policy fellow within the United States Department of Education in the last year of the Obama administration. As a foster, he knows that children and families must and absolutely can have a seat at the policymaking table. At Foster Advocates, he works to ensure that most impacted by current inequities have a voice in making decisions and crafting solutions. Hoang is a proud first-generation college student with a BA from Syracuse University, where he majored in policy studies, and a master's of education from the Johns Hopkins University. Whew. But in his spare time, it goes on, right? He likes to brag about the east side of St. Paul, cook, and try to be the person his dog thinks he is. And as a dog lover, and I know my team is here too, we all love our animals very much. We appreciate that as well. So Huang Murphy, founder and director of the nonprofit Foster Advocates, helped craft the Minnesota law, and said the idea for the program came from the students themselves. So with that, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Hoang Murphy, and I really appreciate the chance to be here with everyone today and use he, him pronouns. Would just love to jump in a little bit. So I actually had a slide deck prepared, but when I was looking through over your slides, I just realized yours were much more thorough and mine were not going to be needed. But would love to just answer a few questions and then, be able to just, speak a little bit about the org and the work and then answer a few questions if that works for everyone else. So I'll just dive in. Sorry.
Yeah, and do you want me to keep sharing, or I can stop sharing as well? And
oh yeah, you can feel free to stop sharing. I don't
okay, perfect
myself.
Okay.
But no, I really appreciate the chance to speak with all of you today. This is really important work, probably the most important thing that we have ever done as an org. At 3.5 years old, that's not as much of a brag as I would like it to be, but maybe it's the biggest thing I've ever done in my life so far. But really, just want to speak a little bit about the org, which is that we're called Foster Advocates because it's more than just our name. It's what we do. We foster advocacy by working with people who have lived experience and who are impacted by the foster care system here in the state of Minnesota. This work is personal to me. This idea and this work started because fosters told us that this was the most significant thing that we could do to really change their lives and make sure that they are able to leave foster care whole. And I just really appreciate, Emily, that you had spoken a little bit about making sure that young people are able to dream, because that's the real potential of this law, is that it closes the hope gap. When you're in 9th grade and no one's been saving for you, no one can co-sign a loan for you, and that there's no one that's going to be borrowing on your behalf. The idea of college and the dream of it is really, really far away. So you don't hope for it. You don't plan for it. And then what's the point of high school? What is the point of doing well if you know that there's nothing for you at the end of this road that is deeply meaningful? We're asking young people to be deeply stubborn about their belief in ways that are really deeply unfair. Really, I think of how strange it is that we tell other young people that they can dream, but we tell foster youth that they need to have grit. And I think we've got a little bit backward. And my deepest and sincerest hope that with this new change and the fostering independence grants now being available is that young people, that this hope gap is closed and that young people are able to dream, even if they're in foster care. That, if you were in care at age 13 or older and you plan to go to school here in the state of Minnesota, that there are real possibilities for you, that a full ride, free college is one of those things, because while we can't correct things that happened in the past, we can make sure that you have a better chance at the future. So a couple of things I would love to cover that were addressed in the PowerPoint that we might have questions about are that, is it real? First answer is yes. That's the number one question I get from fosters. Like, is this like a real thing? It absolutely is. It's in like chapter 2 of like the state legal code, which is, I never thought I would have a favorite chapter of the US legal or the state legal code, but I do now. It is also something that is a dedicated $3.8 million towards per year. But even if that were to be depleted, it is a promise. Some people would call that a entitlement. I know that's politically coded, but that's just the technical word for it. And so it's a promise. That means even if we run out of money that's dedicated for that fund, the state will meet that promise. So that means that we'll pull from the general fund. So don't worry about it if you're a foster. We've got more than enough in the fund to pay for it. And the second part is that while it says 26, it's up to your 27th birthday. And so that clarification is one that is a little bit tricky. It's not when you turn 26, it's it's like the Cinderella clause on your birthday, midnight, that's when it expires. And at any point after age 13, then you qualify for the program. So even if you're in foster care for just a day, as long as it was recognized as an out-of-home placement, then you are eligible for the fostering independence grants. And that's true whether or not you age out of the foster care system, you are adopted, or you are returned home, which I think is a really important distinction to make. The last thing I'll mention is that it is 3 years of eligibility for a 2-year program and 5 years of eligibility for a 4-year program. And the amazing part is that that can be divided up. So if you are going to go half-time, then you pretty much just double the amount of time that's available, because you have 5 years. If you're only going half-time, then you're only using half a year's worth of eligibility. So it may take you 10 years. Hopefully it doesn't, because then the program will expire unless you're starting before you turn 18. But you can do some semesters at like 0.25, 0.15, 0.75, and then full-time. And that is what will trigger it. So just to clarify, let's say you start your first semester, you realize that you are just not in a place where you can really maintain 15 credits. You go to half-time at 7, you are not losing out on that second year of eligibility. You just have now spent 0.75 of your eligibility for 1 year. So happy to dig into that if folks have questions. But other than that, would love to just open up for Q&A. Those are just some of the technical details or rationale as to why we push for it and why we have fought for it. But would love to just be a resource to everyone here, because I'm sure there are questions about it. I'm happy to repeat anything if I talk too fast, which I have a bad habit of doing.
I'm the same. And there's something about a Zoom call too. I think that, there's kind of always a sense of urgency, and then I have to tone it down a notch, but I'm happy that folks power through. I see Mary Sue has a question.
So Huang, here's how I wrote it, but I think I missed your 27. Okay, I wrote, starting the fall of 2022, youth who were in Minnesota foster care under the age of 27, who were in foster care after the age of 13. Is that what you mean, or should it be said differently?
I think that sounds right. It's super confusing, but I usually flip the order, because it's at any point that you were in care, ages 13 or older, so on your birthday and then beyond, and then the cut off, you can't use it anymore if the second you turn 27. So that sounds correct to me, Mary Sue.
Okay, cut off after you turn 27.
Yep. So let's say, well, not let's say, my birthday is July 10th. So let's say I'm turning 27, which let's pretend to everyone that I'm turning 27 on July 10th. Then that's, then my last semester will be that summer term. So you will be able to finish the term. And the way that we define a year is that it's a trimester system. And so fall, spring, summer.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So going off of that, you can't apply for it when you're 26 and have 5 years after that, correct?
No, but you can apply for when you're 26 and use it until you turn 27. So depending on when your birth date is, we would deeply encourage a 26-year-old who is very interested in going to school to then immediately enroll and apply and then enroll at the school of their choice. And depending on when they turn 27, they may be able to get a full year or even a year plus, depending on when their birthday lands.
Huang, first of all, this is a really, this is an incredible feat that you've done, is passing this. It's incredibly impressive. I'm curious, what are you seeing or hearing from fosters as potential barriers? And are there ways that you see folks like us in the mentoring field, how we can help overcome those early now to make sure that as many people as possible have access to this pool of funding?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question, because Well, this is deeply exciting, and I'm very proud of the young people who were able to bring this forward. You know, I just do want to take a moment to name is that this started as a human-centered design process with young people who had some of them were in college, had graduated, and but the majority had attempted college and didn't make it. You know, only 3% of fosters nationwide go on to get a college degree, and you know, at least in the Midwest, only 2% get a 2-year degree by the time they're 21. And statistically, the number rounds to 0, the number of fosters who get a 4-year degree on time. So those are the odds that we are facing. So I name that to say that young people in care, about 80 to 85% say that they want to go to college. That's actually higher than non-fosters, according to current data. But it's also because young people who are in care, I think we innately know that we're going to need to go to school. We're not going to be able to rely on networks and other folks in order to make it as much. But part of that then is that college allows you to build a social network, allows you to build and reweave that social fabric that you were torn from. And that is why I think it's also really critical that young people in foster care do go to some type of post-secondary. Now, this can be a welding tech program, right? If you go to Alex Tech, you take the 6-month welding program and you get a job out in the Bakken for $100K to be a welder, I am not going to discourage someone to go do that. Please go do that. But my suggestion then, given that so many welders end up owning their own business, is that then you spend that extra, you finish that year or 2 years, especially given that there's housing supports, and you also pick up a business administration degree while you're at it, because you're going to be a sole operator at some point in your life, and it's much harder to go back to school once you start earning money. And so that would be my strongest suggestion, is that young people know that there's options and that we support young people's options. I think there's always a tough balance being a mentor between encouragement and giving advice. But I think one of the big ones is that just making sure that young people see themselves there. You don't need to convince young people, just show them, right? Like, if I don't want to go to college, well, then that's fine. Let's go visit some programs that will allow you to get the job that you might want. And the rest usually will take care of it. I find young people to be deeply rational, even more so than adults, because they're unwilling, like, they don't accept the rules as they are. They just will pursue the most logical response. It is illogical for me to have thought that I could have gone to college, because I have 4 siblings. None of them did. None of them were able to. And so it was a deep ignorance and unreasonableness on my part that should not have been expected and necessary for me to go to school. A lot of luck happened to allow me to go there. And so when you're working with a young person, just know that this is available, that this is something that they deserve to have, and that, you know, I would say open the world a little bit for them by bringing them to spaces that they might not have seen, so that they can start seeing and envisioning themselves there. But also, if you're into a foster, send them our way. Does that answer your question a little bit, Sarah? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And Wang, I think because I know we work with a lot of youth in foster situations, and also a lot of families who now care for foster youth. And so I also appreciate the way that you worded this legislation, so that even at any point in time after 13, you can still apply for this funding, because I know there are a lot of families that maybe are caring for many different family members from many different sides of the family who could really use this support. So I think being able to also send them your way is wonderful. I think on our end, we'll be talking about this a lot and really making sure programs know about this resource. So expect a lot of calls and referrals your way, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, please do. And I also want to plug Adam Johnson. So Adam is the person that was hired by OHE, the Office of Higher Ed, in order to administer this program. It is his job to make sure that young people have access. So he's mostly going to be liaising with the colleges at the beginning, but once this is cemented, then he's going to be then looking for gaps or spaces that need to be addressed, particularly where young people maybe aren't fully accessing the program. This was something that we knew was necessary in our work with OHE, that they were going to need to have a dedicated staff person to do this. And so I dropped his email in the chat because he doesn't work for me. He works for the state. I would say bother him as much as you all can. So.
That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, I mean, it's all just helpful. And even everyone in this space here today, you know, if we all pull in the same direction, it's much easier. And again, I was really surprised on how many folks didn't know about this grant opportunity, and just in inviting and encouraging folks to attend and come to learn more. You know, I'm connected. I go to a meeting that Mary Sue Hansen, who's on the call today. Mary Sue is amazing, and she is such a connector. So, you know, and even talking, and we've been in conversation about this. And so for me, you know, it was just, I was surprised with how many folks. And so that just excited to continue to highlight and kind of uplift this work, because I think it not only helps those mentees, and again, encouraging them to dream, right? But it's also a support for program leaders, for educators, administrators within education, and kind of those liaison people, for mentors, and for those foster families that are caring for young people.
Yeah, we had a foster family call. They were really having a problem with the county, Huang. The county wasn't giving the student who was going to college the paperwork necessary to prove that she was in foster care and the benefits, and it got all screwed up. And I told her to call foster advocates to see if there was anybody who could advocate with them to the county, because the county wasn't aware of this either. And they weren't making things better for the family. They were making them worse. And mom had about 4 other foster kids that she was also working with. So it was a really frustrating situation. I went to the top of the top to say, talk to every supervisor, but college was aware, but the county wasn't. So I just wonder about, like Emily's saying, who's all aware, and how do we all in this room help get the word out?
And this is Ramsey County?
Yeah.
Well, I guarantee you that at least some of the unit supervisors that we work with definitely know. But for any Ramsey youth, we have a limited contract to work with Ramsey County youth who are currently in care, get support and access to and through college. And so through that partnership, we're able to provide this service and through grant funding. So please send them our way. We would be glad to work with them to figure that out. And feel free to link me offline with their name so that we can catch it. But there is this challenge that people think that you get this like document or certification when you turn 18 that you were in foster care at some point. That doesn't happen. But wherever the county of their origination, that is where they will need to address it. But one of the challenges here that we work to solve, and if you allow me to break a little bit, that I think was really had a lot of foresight, is that Minnesota had this program called ETV. And so I'm about to get in the weeds just a little bit, but it's the Education and Training Voucher. And so that's a federal funding source that was providing $5,000 up to 5 years for young people to go to college who experience foster care with the same age parameters that our current program has. Minnesota was actually punished because we didn't give away enough of those dollars. So we actually got a reduction. So we were under probation for 3 years. What this law does is it weaves that program into our funding structure. Young people do not need to apply to ETV now to qualify for this program. The only thing that they need to do is file for the FAFSA. They don't even have to qualify for funding through the FAFSA. They just have to file for the FAFSA.
Wow.
And they have to get into school. Because there's one question on the FAFSA that says, were you ever in foster care at age 13 or older? And if you check that box, then the Minnesota system will then integrate that. And Sarah, I see your question about Mr. Dreamers. Yes. So if you don't qualify for the FAFSA, you can apply for the Minnesota Dream Act, and you will also then be eligible as well. And thank you for bringing that up. I was undocumented during my experience in care from, I was aware of it, from when I was 11 to until I turned 18. And luckily, I was able to get my proof of citizenship when I was that summer. So I was still able to go to college. But yes, as long as you're eligible for either program, then you qualify. And then OHI on the back end will make sure that you are fit. And then you'll, in your financial aid award letter this fall, which may need to be updated just because you might have gotten it this spring before the program was fully administered and cemented, but you still qualify. They'll update the financial aid award letter, and then it will round out to 0. And in most cases, they'll be writing you a check to pay for housing and other ancillary fees.
Wow, that's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, nerds get stuff done is really my lesson, is that it finally paid off. Being very technical and exacting to the point of exhausting OHI staff in drafting it sometimes does pay off. So.
And so Dreamers qualify through the Minnesota Dream Act. Is there something they have to apply for is similar to the FAFSA?
Yep. So Minnesota has a program portal so the Minnesota Dream Act application, I can drop that link for
Great.
folks.
Perfect.
And it's right here. So if you apply through that, they have updated it to include the foster care experience. And also, I'll just name that if there's someone applying through this program who was in foster care and they're a dreamer, they should talk to an immigration attorney. But one of the things that you can pursue to get permanent U.S. residency is you can apply through, I forget the name of the specific form, but if you have experience with significant childhood hardship, that is one of the eligible parameters in which you can seek permanent U.S. residency. And so if you qualify for the fostering independence grants, experience in foster care then warrants you, to apply under that clause. So as someone that was undocumented, which I say that very intentionally because my family came to the States with proper authorization, but when I entered foster care, they lost my paperwork. So I just couldn't prove it unless, when I was 18, I had to find out that if the Department of State told me I needed to have a passport to get a new green card. And I went to the Department of State and they said, well, to get a new passport, I need to have a green card. So literally in a catch-22, they created something called an N600 form, because for me and about 10, 15 other young people across the state, shout out to Amy Klobuchar's office back in, when I graduated high school, 2010, for figuring that out. But so those are very narrow and specific things, but if you're dealing with a young person who is undocumented and they qualify for this, they have options. Oh, sorry, I'm just seeing this other question. Are high school counselors and college admission staff being trained financially? It is confusing enough. Great question. I'm going to say no. We would like them to be, but that was one of the things that didn't make it into the law. There was my version, and then there's a version that got passed. The version that got passed doesn't provide the support, but Adam Johnson is supposed to be administering it. Just to be open, we are exploring what it might look like for us to be able to do some of that. It will mean that we'll have to, charge some type of service for it, but it's something that will be minimal, we hope, and it's something that we're looking to maybe partner with the Minnesota private colleges to start that, at least with just their financial aid staff. We worked in close partnership with the Minnesota Private College Association in getting this through, them and Minskew, and so we are hopeful that we can start pushing at the local level to really make sure that guidance counselors know that there is now this opportunity and that they serve as a front line. But my suggestion is just to tell everyone about it. And I'm going to link the Office of Higher Ed page about it so people know it's legit. And if they live in Ramsey County, send them to us. Even if they don't, we'll make it work. Please send them our way. And I would send this to every guidance counselor that you possibly know. But also, let's be real, Minnesota has a 1 to 1,000 guidance counselor ratio. The odds that a guidance counselor is going to even have a conversation with a young person is super low. Send it to every teacher you know, send it to the mentors that you know. I mean, shout it from the rooftops if that is helpful, but just let strangers in the street know. The more people that are aware of it, then the better off we are. And if you are in the media or know someone with media contacts, let me know, and we can start promoting this a little bit better. Because one Strib article from last spring is not going to cut it. So,
I don't really have media connections, but we are connected to a whole lot of mentors, and I think there's an opportunity here where we could help you get the word out and train mentors to be guides to this work, because there's a lot of overlap in what we do. So maybe that's a conversation we can have after the meeting.
Yeah, that's something that we would love to be helpful with. And I will quick plug an event that we have on May 6th that you feel free to share. Hannah and I are hosting a village gathering. We do these monthly, or I do these monthly, just to inform folks about foster care and what we're working on. The May 6th one is about the Fostering Independence Grants. Adam Johnson's going to appear at the very end just to say hi. So folks can put a name to a face. But if you have mentors or folks that might be engaged or want to hear more about it, please send them there. We'll also be able to answer questions similar to what we're doing here, but we'll be going through our own specific slide deck. Mostly because Hannah's smarter than myself. Being an ED, one quick thing I learned is that if you only hire people smarter than you, then your job is a whole lot easier. And so I am dedicated to that. She will be available and will address a lot of the questions that you might have. Thank you. I'll stop at Hannah. It's pretty great.
It's true, and I appreciate this conversation so much and learning more. And kind of what led me to you, not only Mary Sue, and just kind of uplifting this grant and curiosity. And I've connected with Hannah, and I was at an event that she was sharing her experience with her mentor as a foster youth, and it was powerful. And I don't want to speak on her behalf, but I think there's a real space here for mentors to act as really those supporters. And again, and knowing of different opportunities and grants such as this, and organizations such as Foster Advocates, so that we're not expecting mentors to have all the answers and to know everything. So but even being that bridge, that connector for young people, and then to be there to continue to encourage them along the way, I think is a powerful thing.
It's not only just a powerful thing, it's the most powerful thing. When we look at all the data on what is most important for a foster youth making it in the world, is a significant and strong relationship with an adult in their life that is not paid to be there. Fosters often experience that the only adults in their life are paid professionals. And while they do amazing work that's really important to the best of their ability, they will be the first to tell you that's not enough. And that also with boundaries around work and life and, the fact that that's not in their role, often when a young person turns 18, it's a really lonely path. One that if you're alone and not anchored and attached to the world, then you're not a part of it. And so having a mentor, having someone who just, who gives a shit, who like cares, is the most important thing. When I think about my own journey, while there wasn't a single mentor that was able to support, there were moments where adults chose to be kind when they didn't have to. And that has made all the difference. And we get to make those choices in everyday moments of our life. And so I would just say, if there's a moment to be kind, you should do it. But to be less cheesy, if there's a moment where you can be like mentoring and supportive, don't undervalue that. Okay. We have other state folks. Yes, so there's about 13. Sorry, let me just pull up my Google Drive for a second. I'll tell you exactly what those states are. As part of drafting this law, spent the summer digging into all the policies across the country. We did a state, nationwide analysis. Spoke to all the states that have a similar program before pursuing this law here. Okay, so I've got pulled up. Sorry, it was just gonna take me a second. It's like a 15-page report that I wrote, and so I have to skim it. I haven't looked at it in a long time.
I just want to say, while Huang's doing that, I loved what he said, but on not undervaluing just even the power of kindness, the power of mentoring, the power of support, having connected and caring adults in your life who are not paid to be there. I'm going to remind us all about that whenever I'm in a circle, because that is so critical to find informal networks and connect youth to those informal networks, as well as the formal networks. So thank you, Huang.
Of course. So the states that have some type of program, now I will just name some of them. So Minnesota went from doing nearly nothing for foster youth to now we do more than any other state. So no other state does quite as much as we do, but we won't hold that against them because they've been doing it for longer. So West Virginia has a fairly comprehensive program. There are limits to each of them. So if there's a specific state, I can link it. But West Virginia, Utah, Michigan, New York, Connecticut, Alaska, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Virginia, New Hampshire, Missouri, Oklahoma, Tennessee. And I think I got them all. Did I say Iowa? I think I might have, but Iowa has something as well. I can send a more comprehensive list. There's, in fact, I think there's actually a national resource that might have this. It's a little bit dated in that it doesn't quite cover what each state covers because it's a very technical program, but there's about 13 states that cover it. And I would just say if you're out of state, just reach out to your ETV coordinator in your state, and they'll be able to let you know or not. Or reach out to us and I'll just tell you. Oh, one thing that I will.
I think Sarah caught them all in there.
Okay, awesome.
She's
one thing
quick with typing. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Because I type like 33 words a minute. And so like it is not very good. But I will just name that there is a clause in the law that allows private schools to opt out. And so that was one of the agreements that we needed to come to in order to make sure that folks were on board. And because of that, there are going to be some schools that are going to then take advantage of that opt-out clause and not provide service for this program. That does not, as of right now, the only colleges that I know of that are opting out, they have until May 7th, and that if they have to opt out at one time per year. So if you don't opt out that year, then that whole year they have to cover you. So you're not going to be surprised like mid-semester they decide to opt out. But it's the Hastings Beauty School has opted out, Rasmussen, their network of colleges, and Nova Academy. So those currently are the 3 for-profit colleges that have decided to not engage. And depending on who's on this call, that is okay.
I was just going to mention, and that's good to know. And I think we can stay in a optimistic place for that. That's a really small portion of agencies that maybe just aren't going to be part of it, but want to focus on all of those that are. And so that's really awesome. And yeah, I hope that's okay. I did share your email
Yeah, totally.
chat. Okay. I know you can find it easily on your website too, but wanted to include you. I know a couple of folks already had to bounce out, but I wanted just to share that in case anyone else has a 1 o'clock. But and for those that are still on the call, that we'll share these resources that we've talked about today. And I have several other ones. So what I've done in the past is just put all of it into sort of a packet. It's really just a Google Doc that kind of lists out the different resources by category for all of you, rather than have a 4-page email from me. And so that way you can share it out easily with your teams and your networks for anyone that wants to learn more. And Sarah just shared the way to find foster advocates as well, and that will also be included. Yeah.
Well, yeah, awesome. And please just let us know how we can help. I'm here as a resource, in service to all of you who are doing great work, especially frontline work, working with young people directly. If you have experience in foster care or childhood, out of home placement, please reach out to us. We'd love to be engaged. And if there's a young person in your life who has that experience, we'd love to chat with them. But while you might be the first one in your family to go to college, is what I say to our young people, you're not the only. And so just know that there are folks that are in similar experience to all of you. One thing that we do as an org is that we send out care boxes for like those in college. Like, for example, over Thanksgiving break, that's a really hard time. I was in my dorm for those 2 weeks. And so not a lot of young people know that you can request to stay on campus, but also that fosters don't always have a place to go. So we send a care package. In fact, I made orange cranberry sauce, and canned it this year. So we will be sending that out this fall. So if you know a young person that needs one, wants one, let us know. We are setting that up this summer. So would love to figure that out.
That is incredible. And as my teammates know, I get emotional really, but it's always because it's a place of love, but that's tremendous. And just testament too for, your hard work and dedication and really love for uplifting young people. So just excited. And this has been an honor to have you here with us today. And I think we could go on for quite a while to talk about ways that we can intersect and continue to work together in supporting foster youth. So again, but feel free, anyone can reach out to myself or Sarah, Allie, if you have questions. And again, we look forward to a continued conversation and work. And see
absolutely.
Shiva.
And feel free to reach back out in the fall. Happy to come back.
That would be amazing. And I know it seems like a long time but it's not. It's, I blinked and 2 months have already, though it feels like we're in February, March weather-wise, but it is May soon.
Hopefully spring will arrive.
Before you go, Marianne asked a question, which is there an opportunity for the community? I don't want to misconstrue what you're asking, Marianne, but to help out creating those care packages?
Like sometimes churches or civic groups will do things like that, or just donate money to be part of it.
The best way to help right now is to donate, which would help us out. We are a small org. We're a super small org, but I really want to think more about that, because if we are going to be creating a lot of these, would love for there to be an opportunity for the public to, maybe bring stuff and to support. So Marianne, I would just say sign up for our newsletter and we will stay in touch. And if you don't hear from me, at some point about that, either in a newsletter or directly, then don't hesitate to reach out, because
Right.
one of the challenges that maybe Minnesota can share is being a small team is that sometimes you don't know what to do with all the people that want to help.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that people are able to, but that their time is honored and respected. And if we don't follow up after folks are seeking to volunteer, it's not because we don't appreciate it. It's largely because we are swamped as a team. I mean, during the spring, especially just because of the legislative session, like we have 2 hearings tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have an ombuds office for fosters by next week.
So Huang, 2 things about that touched my heart too, because I live right by McAllister College, and sometimes we would have some of the students who are from out of the country come for Thanksgiving and be with us. So, if ever there were some foster students over at McAllister, man, I wish I would know so I could invite them over, but that's, confidentiality. But if
There's
they're
one.
there is one. Okay. So if ever there's a way to connect, I live like literally 2 blocks away from the college, and I would love to be a support person for that person. Truthfully.
Yeah, Mary Sue, let's definitely follow up, because it's something that we're
Okay.
thinking about too. Like,
Good, cool.
I was able to speak with the owner of Lynn Hall just very briefly, like 2 years ago before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we briefly chatted about maybe hosting Thanksgiving there for fosters. But that was 2 years ago. And so maybe she probably has totally forgotten about it. But other spaces, and just let's definitely follow up on that. I might want to pick your brain and think more about that, because I've never hosted anything like that, but I think there's a lot of fosters that might want to.
That'd be fun, because we enjoyed it so much, making Easter baskets for them and stuff like that. It's just when they came over for pizza night, they always wanted hot sauce because they were from Mexico. So it was so fun having them over there at our house. It's been a while. Love to do that. That's so cool. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. And for making the time out of your busy schedule, Huang. I really appreciate it. I know all of us do. So, and for all of you that are on the call and enjoying your lunch with us. Thank you.